Hello there. I'm Charlie Ocean, and my pronouns are they, them. Welcome to Allyship is a Verb, a podcast for people practicing allyship for the LGBTQ plus community and beyond.
Hey there, my name is Trisha Wallis and I use she, her pronouns.
Trisha is a super kind human and friend who I've gotten to know for a while now. I haven't met her in person, but certainly hope to someday. We've been talking about having her on the podcast for ages. No shade at you, but rather, Trisha, thank you so much for making the time, and I'm glad our schedules could finally align. Here are 3 self-reflection questions for you to ponder while listening. Be sure to stick around after the conversation for 3 more. Number 1. Have I ever checked to make sure my therapists are licensed and in good standing with their boards? Number 2. What's a cultural intersection I wish I could explore more? Number 3. How is my heart doing today? And now, our conversation. All right, are you ready to dive in?
I am.
Fantastical. You are a white, lesbian / queer cisgender woman, in addition to being a psychologist and social worker. What do those intersections mean to you?
Ooh. First of all, it's so weird to hear my identities repeated back because I'm like, oh, is that what it is today?
Yes.
and what I said that day, So it is. That is what is today. What those intersections mean to me is maybe just that they're ever evolving and interacting with one another, right? So like one might be heavier on one day versus another. Yeah, the funny thing about intersectionality is it's just how we all are. So like to call it out and talk about it and what those intersections mean to one person, it's a little bit like saying, so how is it to be alive? Like you're like, this is just how I've been, for a long time now, for all of those intersections anyway, as they evolve. Gosh, this is really turning into an existential podcast quickly.
Well, there's a follow-up, so brace yourself.
Oh, okay. So I'd say those intersections mean to me living in my own skin authentically and claiming them as they are, as the truth is for myself, and comes with a lot of privilege, a lot of access to a lot of stuff that I hopefully don't take for granted. And on brand with the theme of your podcast, hopefully utilize those intersections and that privilege to help other people.
Something interesting came up in our chat before today because you feel the labels queer and lesbian don't fully fit for you, which is why you use both. Could you tell us more about that if you feel comfortable?
I do, and thank you for asking. It was really interesting how it came up in our conversation, mostly because I felt like I hadn't said it out loud until our conversation, and I kept the uncomfortability of both sort of rattling around in myself. I don't feel like any label really encompasses all the things for me, not deciding what other people think or feel, and neither fully encompass the way I feel about my own sexual orientation, queerness, etc. Queer is probably the better label for all of it because it's like an umbrella term and I can be under the umbrella in different spots, if you will. Gosh, I didn't know that was a metaphor I was going to use. The lesbian, for me, is dependent on not only how I identify, but also to some degree how my partner identifies based on their gender, right? And I don't like pansexual personally. I don't like the word. That's it.
There's just too many pan jokes. That's the real reason, right? Like, no, I'm not
That's
attracted
it.
to pans. Thank you.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, and queer I think is the most comfortable, but I also feel like when I use the word queer, what kind of queer? What brand? What flavor? What, you know, accoutrement accompanies that? It doesn't, I don't fully come out with that. And so when I say queer, for me it means cisgender queer, but then that feels like too much to say, right? So I'm talking about sexual orientation or attraction. And then I start to go down the rabbit hole of like, but gender and sexual orientation, gender identity, they all start to get shapeshifty, right? So I settle on queer and then I'm like, but it doesn't really essentialize so people know what I'm talking about. So for personally, I like the label queer for me internally, but communicating to other what brand of queer, that's why I use both queer lesbian woman, queer lesbian cis woman. And it's just, this is the constant thing. Yeah.
I'm kind of interpreting it like you feel like you're lying almost
Mm,
because you're not telling like the full truth or something. But like, do people need to like know all of your micro labels?
that's totally fair. I think as someone who, it's a really fair question now that I'm like absorbing it, Charlie.
This was a therapy session that you didn't know that you were opting into. You're welcome. I won't bill
You
you.
can, I was going to say you should bill me and at a really good rate because you deserve it.
Thank you.
I think that yes, and oh gosh, here it comes. Here comes the therapy.
Get your bingo cards for the therapists and social workers. Here we go. Yeah.
Here we go. Yes, and yes, not everyone needs to have all my labels. Not everyone should have all my labels, depending on the context, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, right, the and part is I feel like visibility is really important. And to the degree that I'm comfortable to, I want to share so that people see me and I see myself in other people, the reflecting back. Gosh, yeah, it's a yes and it's complicated.
Reflecting back. We're filling up the bingo card. I love it. No, I mean,
I haven't said holding space yet.
no, because I'm holding space for you. There I said it. Yeah. That's probably like a free space, honestly. So I'm not trying to like psychoanalyze you at all because that's not my thing. I'm a more of a macro person. It's just interesting because it almost feels like you're carrying this tension of you want to make sure, and I'm not saying this is completely out of guilt, although I would imagine there's some element to that, and
Mm,
I have like my own that I work through, but almost like,
mhm,
okay, if I'm practicing allyship, and you started with talking about those intersections and that you're aware of certain privileges and access that you have. So,
mhm,
in my mind, when you feel like queer isn't the fullness of who you are because you're not also like, let's say, giving those micro labels,
mhm,
I don't feel like you're being dishonest, and I don't feel like you're not still using your access and privilege and all that to benefit the rest of the LGBTQ plus communities. But
mm.
yeah, what's going on? Your face? What's going on?
Yeah, thank you. I'm processing because I think perhaps I know I'm talking to you. I'm holding the tension between I'm having a conversation with you, knowing that this is going to be on a podcast and
Yeah.
I feel safe with you, and also knowing it's going to go to a wider audience, of which theoretically, I think the people that listen to it are queer friendly slash queer understanding slash part of the community. To the outside world, non queer world, some people don't know what queer is.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to have to explain it. So I say queer, lesbian, then they're like, got it. Maybe a follow up question about queer. If I say queer inside the alphabet mafia, people get what I'm saying. And sometimes I want to say lesbian so they know what brand for visibility for all of that. It's a constant dance of my own comfortability and being visible to people so people kind of know where I am on the chessboard, I guess. And it's a constant tension. And that's why I think that's partially perhaps why none of those labels fit completely for me.
It's interesting because I would make the assumption, which we know what that does, and I won't say the rest of it.
Hmm.
Um, I would make the assumption that queerness is just super expansive and allows for the fullness of you and whatever that means because it's such a wide umbrella all-encompassing term. So it's interesting that you feel actually like more limited by it in some ways because it's not giving your full brand.
Mm. Yeah, that is really interesting. I hadn't thought about it like that way because I was thinking more that the lesbian gave me more restriction. And now I think hearing you say that both do in different ways, which is interesting because then there's this parallel process. I hope that's also on the bingo card that I'm a social worker and a psychologist. And in different spaces, that means different things. And to some folks, it would just be like, yeah, therapist. It's in the umbrella of therapist. Why don't you just say that? And in career land world, sometimes those things are in different camps or different campsites at the
Yes.
same camp. So it is not lost on me and good fodder for me to think about how those two sort of play against or with each other.
Before we hopped on today, I was thinking I don't tell people very often, but I do claim, and I don't say that to be like allegedly or something, like I do have previous experience as a lesbian. So I do talk about having lesbian roots, and it doesn't just go away because I was part of that community for several years and I really immersed myself in it. I was surrounded by other people who also claim that term. And so that doesn't just like go away. Those experiences stay with me. Is it a term I would use for myself today? No, because it doesn't encompass the fullness of my sexuality and attraction and all of that. But it's interesting because it's not part of like the intersection list that I would give people. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you work through the discomfort of, I'm not making fun of you, I'm just making fun of the profession.
Bingo.
Yeah, you work through yours is already full, great. You work through it by picking and choosing, yeah, where you're going to share those and where they're going to maybe do the most good, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can be this shapeshifter, and I think that's kind of what you were talking about because you can use those to your advantage, but, you know, to move forward the gay agenda, which is the most important thing.
Absolutely. I need another toaster oven.
You got yours?
I got mine. Yeah.
Jesus, I never got that or the lesbian manual. I'm still bitter about it.
Well, the toaster oven has upgraded to these times as an air fryer.
I knew you were gonna
Um,
say that. I knew you were gonna say that.
so, who doesn't like a crispy, item at home, right?
I know. the the funny part is I got it for French fries, and then I've only made them once in there, and I make literally like anything else in there outside of that. But
Yeah.
like the intention genuinely was, I was like, fuck yeah, I need more steak fries in my life, and this will like, do it. But then, yeah, I think it was just one time.
Yeah, I think that like I also had the intention of crispy fries action. And then what happened is now it's mostly toast.
Yeah, that too.
So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sourdough, of
Oh,
course.
we're complicated humans.
We really are. I think one aspect of this that is so interesting is the reclaiming of the jokes. We have a really good sense of humor, I think, and also not at the same time in the queer community, in the LGBTQ plus community. And I really enjoy the interplay of being able to laugh at what others are saying about us as a reclaiming to then feel more empowered and like the toaster oven and the recruiting and everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not recruiting anything. except for people to stay alive.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to tell me that I'm recruiting for people to be alive, and 2.0 would be authentically living and happy, and if 3.0 is living their best life, then yeah, that's what I'm recruiting for. And why shouldn't we as humans recruit for that? And I don't mean that about gender or sexuality, I just mean that as the human experience. So I like to think, and maybe I'm deluding myself, that's okay if I am, that I use my intersectionality and allyship for more good for other people. And the part where it gets tricky is when I think I am and have done harm from it. So part of perhaps the tension that I'm holding about those identities, sub identities, micro identities, visibility for everything is how can I use that for more good, to be visible, to do the most good? And constantly reflecting back to, am I doing the most good? Can I do more? Did I do harm? All of the questions and more. It's complicated.
Yeah. When taking on allyship work, like how you talked about like checking yourself,
Hmm.
and if you have feelings coming up because the ego is like, hello, how you balance that with also, I don't know, almost like a mantra you had shared with me of, okay, what's my next step, and pick it up and take it on, but then also balancing that with self-care.
Hmm.
It's like a constant exhausting dance. I'm not saying it's not worth it, and maybe some days you're more graceful than others
Hmm. Hmm.
when you're doing that. I mean, because you also talked about how it's constant work and quieting your own ego and centering those around you and not just taking the front stage, but like, when do you allow yourself? Do you even allow yourself to take front stage ever? Because it's not like you're exempt from hardships or any of that. So
Right. Yeah.
I just asked you like 15 questions in one. Good luck.
I love it. This is the work. This is the connection. This is the stuff that makes life alive, for us to be able to sort through all of the complexities, dance with the complexities, constantly churn it, and not in just a navel gazing way. For me, it's more of a, how can I learn more about myself to then stop looking at my navel and go out and do? I'm a social worker. I was a social worker long before I was a psychologist, and I like doing things. I like making progress. I like boots on the ground doing stuff. Logistics is my middle name sometimes. And getting stuff done, right? And so just sitting and thinking about it doesn't feel comfortable for me. It's the thinking about it to get ready to take the next step, to do more allyship, to push in a direction where something, myself, an organization, a city, laws, our society, culture should go, nudging in that direction. So the self is the work, and the work is the self, but you're not yourself in a vacuum. I'm not on a deserted island.
Yeah.
If I were, we wouldn't be having this lovely conversation. We live in context of one another. And so I want to keep looking at how I show up and how I am in context, not simply to shapeshift to fit in or get a pat on the head. It's to continue being in community in a way that feels really good for me and also uncomfortable, which ends up feeling good, right? Yeah, it's this constant dance of how to consolidate all of that and how to make it work. And the times where I have allowed myself to be center stage or take credit or let myself go there, it feels good for a period of time, and then it it's done. Like, it's good for a period of time. It feels good to be recognized. Who doesn't like to have someone recognize the good work you've done? I don't want it to be at a detriment to myself or other people, and that's just a constant balance thing. If everyone was just giving me awards all the time, that's not that's a ugh. I don't think I'd like that. for many reasons. The question you asked was, do I allow myself to go there? I think the answer is yes. And I see so many people in the work I do never recognized, never center stage, or in a way that I see anyway,
Yeah.
recognized for the amazing work they're doing and the type of personality that they are. I kind of think they feel more comfortable in the background, right? Not on center stage. And I honor that. And that's cool. And I think about all of those people that are getting stuff done in the background, not the CEOs, not the presidents of organizations, not the honorees at the whatever event that truly make the world go round.
And sometimes those awards are political,
Absolutely. Yeah,
which feels gross.
very.
Yeah, so I feel like I have 15 different trains leaving the station. Pick one, Charlie.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome to the neurodivergent mind. Yeah.
Well, this is what happens when I don't take my meds earlier in the day before these conversations. They don't have time to like kick in. It'll like kick in halfway through, but it'll still be unhinged chaos. Um, Times I've been honored, I've appreciated it. Something that's weird, like with podcasts, as an example, most of the time you have to submit yourself. And it feels weird
Mm,
because, like, who do I think I am that, but because, like, my friends will, not knowing, will be like, oh, that's so amazing. Like, I'm so glad you're being, like, honored for your work. But in a way, they don't realize, like, I submitted. Like, it's not like someone else submitted me,
yeah.
because a lot of these are also inaccessible because there'll be hundreds of dollars to submit per category.
Ooh,
So you have to like really bet on yourself, and there's financial barriers for people, especially based on their intersections, right? That they're
right.
likely working with some more hardship there. And then that also doesn't feel good. And what you're reminding me of and what you shared is that leadership looks differently for everybody.
Yes.
And it doesn't inherently mean that you're like the person with the mic
Yep.
on a stage or on a platform, because
Yep.
leadership can also be more quiet and subtle, but still have profound impact. It's so funny that we're like on the don't say butt
Right.
train when I love butts. Well, other butts more than the BUT one.
Mm, hmm hmm
This is, I really should have taken the meds sooner today. Anyway, yeah, I'm curious your thoughts around that. Yeah.
I'm here for it because I I too now have multiple trains that want to leave the station in different directions. And I did take coffee before, you know. So perhaps it's not a med issue today.
Yeah.
I'm just giving that as an option. The wild thing about recognition, or like that example of submitting, to be considered for an award, is ironic on multiple levels. And then from where I sit, I think about just the submission for the award, just the nomination, even self-nomination, gets the name out there, gets your podcast out there, creates a bigger reach for you, which in turn gets people thinking about and activated around allyship and doing things in their communities. So I can see a world in which it's not performative, ego stroking stuff. It really is a function for good. And at the same time, I can feel the tension when you talk about like nominating yourself for something. Feels so like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, because I recently nominated a friend for an award. They make it so fucking awkward because, not my friend, but like some of these institutions, because it's like, well, this person must be available on this date to like fly out in person to New York, blah, blah, blah. Like, we'll cover like travel expenses and blah, blah, but they have to be there. So it's like, okay, so awkward question. Do you have the potential to be in New York on this
Right,
day? And then you can't
right.
really say why, right? Initially, I don't.
Right.
I couldn't find a good way to ask. But so once my friend was like, yes, potentially. Why? Like, what for? Like, are we doing something together?
Right.
I'm like, well, I want to submit you for something, but you'd have to be available that day. So it's like, I can't nominate you in the first place if you're not also going to be available that day. There's probably like neurotypical people or something listening to this right now going, oh, Charlie, you poor sweet thing. Like, there's an easier way of asking your friend this question. But I made it this whole awkward thing. But my friend was honored and, I submitted. What also felt good was, I was like, listen, I've experienced you certain ways, but there's likely even more cool shit you've done that I'm not privy to. So if you could just do me the favor of like giving me a list of everything as much as possible, just like info dump on me. I love it. Just info dump all these things you've done. Here are some of the questions I'm answering so that I can brag about you. And then what I did too is because whether or not she was going to be picked, I don't think we tell people enough while they're here how we feel about them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I actually copy pasted the answers to her in an email. I was like, here, since I talk shit about you behind your back, I just thought you should be able to read it,
Oh,
And maybe that was even more touching than the fact of, I don't know, submitting her in the first place. But
yeah.
then not everyone wants to be honored that way either.
Right.
Because it's awkward and uncomfortable for some folks.
It sure is. If anyone is out there listening to this and judging you or judging this process of nominating someone else, I invite them to do it once because it's very awkward and very funny and brings up all kinds of stuff, especially when you have to submit a CV of theirs. I don't know about you,
Oh my God.
but that requires me asking them for their CV.
Yeah.
And it's a wild time. It's almost like perhaps nominating folks is just like conspiring for good.
Yeah.
And it's literally an honor to be nominated or even thought to be nominated by your friends and coworkers and colleagues because that's the real gift.
Yeah, she was the first person I thought of.
Mm,
I didn't have to think about it. It just like boop, like popped into my head. So it
yeah.
was
Yeah.
yeah, it was super easy for me. But yeah, then I made it super awkward asking her, and I'm sure she like didn't feel it that way, the way that I'm feeling about it. And unfortunately, she didn't get picked. But I don't think that was all for nothing because I'm like, great.
Hmm.
Well, if you weren't already on their radar, I hope you are now, and I hope something else can come from that. So
Yeah.
if nothing else,
You bring up a really good point that is a big part of my allyship of centering other people's voices rather than my own. I really try to do that. And especially around whatever the issue is, taking a page from the disability rights movement of nothing about us without us and trying to center and celebrate folks who are doing the work, who have been doing the work, who continue to do the work, who've always done the work is really great. And being able to be in community with those folks and alongside them to see the amazing stuff they do is that's the real joy for me in allyship work.
yeah. So go nominate someone for something. That's the allyship tip. No, I'm just kidding. But also not.
But also, yes.
I do think, even though it can feel really crunchy, I think that if we can take a moment to stop and pause and recognize how we've contributed to the world, and sometimes we're never fully, well, we're never fully aware of our impact on people and the ripples. And I'm sure there are stories people tell about me that I'll be none the wiser because I was this awkward ass student that showed up in their class one day and shared my story, you know? And for the times I do have it come back to me, that's incredible. But that's not why I do it.
Mm,
I don't know. It almost feels like I have to
yeah.
just because it's what drives me. And I think you're similar.
Yeah.
I've just recognized that in the things that you've shared so far.
I spoke about my grandmother at her memorial service, and the things that she was so amazing in doing were just because she did them, because it was part of her. And that's, I think, what you're talking about, the need to keep doing the things because it's just who we are. And in that way, I think for me, allyship is very closely entwined with authenticity. I hope it is. for folks that are looking to get active as allies and in allyship, doing something that feels good to them and close to their heart, and just be yourself in doing the thing or things is the way to do it.
Well said.
That sounded like an allyship tip, but it's not.
Sneaking them in.
Hmm.
For 2 years, you worked to pass SB 372, which, for those who don't know, stands for California Senate Bill 372. The nutshell version is that it removes dead names or given names, previous names, whichever version you want to use, from therapist license lookups, and also updates the gender marker when applicable if that's also what they're doing. So, first, because people are like, what the hell is a therapist license lookup? Could you help explain what that even is and the significance of how not having something like this has hurt people in the past? Well, if you didn't know that, you could look up if your therapist is legit. Whatever you're doing now, just quit and go look them up. Go look them up. Go look them up. It can't wait. You don't want to be stuck with some asshat. You deserve to be with the legit one, a therapist. And that's a fact. So go look their ass up, come on, look their ass up. You could do a search on the internet for therapist, license, look up, and your state. Hurry up, don't wait. Hurry up, don't wait. Don't wait.
Absolutely. A consumer wants to make sure that the person who says that they're a therapist is in fact licensed in the state. In the state of California, there's the Department of Consumer Affairs that regulates all these boards. And there's a couple of therapist boards. There's the Board of Psychology, the Board of Behavioral Sciences that licenses social workers, marriage and family therapists, and licensed professional counselors. And the consumer can go on that website to look up not only is this person licensed, but also the status of their license, if it's in good standing, etc. And part of that license lookup process gives you information about the person. When they were registered with the board, the date they got licensed, and the school they went to, lots of information. And one of the things that's been on there for a very long time are name changes. And name changes over time typically have been if someone got, for simplicity's sake, married or divorced or changed their name in some form or fashion. As a byproduct, when people transition and their name is very gendered, previously or afterwards, or a mix thereof, a person can make a lot of assumptions about that. And giving everyone the absolute most generous assumption, at best, it triggers our implicit bias when we see it. At worst, we can then discriminate based on that if the person is very anti-trans, etc. But it gives information that can harm the person and can create lots of issues. So for example, if a person is, let's just say, a therapist, a psychologist, and they transitioned and their previous name, given name, dead name is very, very gendered in one direction. And then every time the license lookup occurs, whether it's by a potential client, by a current client, by an institution that's checking their license to make sure that they're in fact licensed and good standing for a promotion, for hospital privileging, for insurance reimbursement. There's lots of reasons people look up licenses. Every single time that person is potentially misgendered, potentially dead named, potentially triggering implicit bias in the person looking up. It even can be overt where clients can then circle back to the person and say, I can't work with a trans therapist. I'm discontinuing my services with you. And it has done that. People do experience harm. People are passed over for promotions and, in one example, are not credentialed with the hospital. And if everything else on their record is clear, in that case, trans therapist is then thinking, is it because they saw my dead name? Is it because now I've been outed as trans because of my gendered previous name? And that question is part of minority stress over and over and over again. So it can be in a wide range of things. I should add that it's not just about the law that was passed, isn't just about trans people. And there was some addition in that language that's now, if you read the bill, you'll see it. People escaping domestic violence have order of protections and have changed their name due to stalking, domestic violence, etc. They also, too, can have their previous name erased from the rolls, if you will. That is a really cool way that we were able to encompass more allyship, even in the allyship, to be able to help trans and non-binary therapists and folks licensed under DCA, but also those experiencing and have survived domestic violence and stalking.
Yeah, it's the curb cut effect.
Exactly.
The curb cut effect means things like laws or programs that are designed to benefit vulnerable groups, such as disabled folks or people of the global majority, often end up benefiting everyone. Some examples include closed captioning, which can be used by hearing people, including neurodivergent folks such as myself, and curb cuts, the parts that dip at the end of some sidewalks. Those can be helpful for items like strollers and suitcases beyond mobility aids. We don't maybe always know how this is going to help one particular group, but then also others for very different reasons. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Something that both of us were very passionate about was when people think states like California and Colorado, because I live in Colorado now, but I'm originally from California, where you are, they think they're safe like blue bubbles, but that's just not true. And something I brought up when we were talking was that people forgot that Prop 8, which banned same gender marriages, passed back in like, I don't know, 2009 or so. And a while back, you were mentioning the potential for maybe 3 or 4 anti-trans ballot propositions in California to like be coming up soon.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about those and how they're impacting clients that you work with.
Yeah. Like we were talking about before, we don't live in vacuums, and even legislation happening in other states affects the emotional and psychological health of people in quote unquote blue bubble states,
Mhm.
even in blue bubble areas, right? Where the potential for those types of laws happening is very low. And at the same time, in California, because we have a supermajority, very trans friendly and supportive legislature and governor office right now, it takes a different form sometimes. We see things popping up in school boards and in different ways in different pockets. One way that it can pop up is with this constitutional amendment or propositions for people to vote on. And there's, of course, a process to have those qualify. I think that's partially why Prop 8 happened in California. People using the process of democracy to test things out or to try to further different agendas or pass laws about things. What I think, the machine will machine, right? The machine is machining. And the way that it affects the clients that I see and interact with and their support people is it really contributes to that gender minority stress, that hypervigilance of, am I going to have to worry about this? Am I going to have to make an exit plan from this country? Am I not safe in California? If I'm not safe in California, where will I be safe? How can I get there? Constant hypervigilance and scanning the environment for safety. I have folks that are making potential and real exit plans to different countries, depending on how November goes.
For those of you not in the States, this is a presidential election year, which happens every 4 years and means higher voter turnout, especially compared to our midterm elections.
And or potential and very real plans, regardless of how November goes, because they need emotional, psychological, and physical safety in ways that they need it. It's not lost on me that that is both a privilege and tragic that people even have to consider that or think that. I think what people forget that aren't in marginalized categories, and I use that term very shapeshifty,
Yeah.
is that for gender minorities, especially trans and non-binary people, it's constant hypervigilance. If it's not in their physical immediate environment or their friends or their family, it's their state or their city. Or can I be out in this place? Can I wear gender affirming clothes at this place? Can I even go to this place, etc.? It's a constant background running tape of safety scanning, and that wears on people psychologically,
Yeah.
even in the bluest of blue areas.
Yeah, and places like Denver aren't as blue as people think they are.
Yeah,
It's more purple than anything else at best. So, and in your case, when you're working directly with clients who are trans, non binary, gender expansive, it adds more pressure to something that can already be stressful of making big decisions about your body, about your future, not even just exit plans of like relocating to another state or country, which is not easy. And you're giving up a lot when you do that, though there are financial privileges and everything. You know, if folks can make that happen, it's not available to everyone. And some people do want to stay and fight. And I'm not here to like weaponize allyship and say, oh, well, you should have stayed and fought or whatever, because people have to make the decisions that are best for them and their families.
absolutely.
So there's that piece. But yeah, I imagine, and you've shared with me that for your clients, it's like, well, shit, do I need to like hurry up and get this surgery now? Is this like still going to be an option for me in the future? And you don't want to feel any more pressure about making those kinds of decisions. Not because I think people will make the wrong ones, but I think that any medical thing I've had happen, if I was not in like the best, especially like mental and emotional state to deal with it, it absolutely hurt like the experience of like healing. It made things like more challenging. And, you know, especially when you do something like having top surgery or whatever, like I had, like, you really want to have people around you championing you and checking in and bringing you food and helping you shower and all of these things because all of a sudden you're very vulnerable.
Yes,
But you also don't, yeah, want to have to rush those decisions, especially when insurance fights like hell to not cover it.
right,
It's a hot mess.
right. I think for people who haven't walked through that or had to walk through the mental gymnastics of that, don't understand it to a degree that, well, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't bother me, or it's whatever, those people, blah, 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 fill in the blank, awful thing. What folks don't realize is that no one should have to make decisions around bodily autonomy and care, medical care, emotional care, mental health care, that are pressured by governments, that are pressured by other people other than their own decision about their own thing that's happening right now. It adds different elements that really complicate things. Having government involved in your decision around your own body is something that I wish for that no one has to have.
Yeah. The intersectionality of gender affirming and reproductive care issues. And I think you've demonstrated really well how these are very similar liberations that we're working toward.
Yeah, a lot of overlap there. And having worked in both fields in my career and allyship journey, there's a lot of overlap in a lot of ways that I wish there wasn't
Yeah.
and understand it to be. There's a lot of work to be done. I know so many people that I've gotten the privilege of knowing that do the work and are absolutely amazing and wish we didn't have to know each other for doing the work, if you will.
Yeah. Something that has come up recently, and this is pretty heavy. One of the ways that people sometimes can weaponize allyship is saying, oh, but it's so much better than it was before. We didn't lose Matthew Shepard that long ago, and we basically just had almost the same thing happen to a young trans person in Utah. I just read it. And yeah, I just also watched the Laramie Project for the first time in ages last year. And so, like, having that fresher in my mind and then reading the story about this young trans guy in Utah, it's just like, fuck. And that's why when people try to say, oh, well, we'll fight it and we'll win and everything. Okay, but sure, do I believe we'll win in the end? Absolutely. I do believe that. And there are real consequences to what's happening here and in the UK because we're seeing an uptick in violence against especially trans people.
Hmm.
And I imagine, that's a really tricky space for you to be in with your clients because this isn't like a pretend or an imaginary fear. This is reality.
Yeah. There's an adage that helps me recenter or think about when those really heavy topics like this come up. And I don't know if it's the macro social worker in me. Maybe it is. That's okay if it is. It's taken from public health. And it's when people are in the river, you need to pull people out of the river, but you also need to go upriver to find out why they're falling in the river or being pushed in the river. How did they get in the river in the first place? And how do we address that while we're also pulling people out of the river? I like that for many reasons. I like rivers. I like the metaphor. And I like that we can address both at the same time and think about both at the same time. And what unfortunately has happened in history over and over again with queer people, with women, with marginalized folks, with people of color, etc. It's people say, hey, this thing is going to attribute to more people in the river. And then people say, you're doing Chicken Little stuff. The sky is falling. And then there's more people in the river. And then we got to pull out more people out of the river. And we got to also address why people are getting in the river. It's like this constant dance about that. And it tends to shift over time with whatever the issue is. And being in community with people who are addressing both is incredible. And I've met so many amazing people doing both and continue to. It's going to wrap in a beautiful way, hopefully, my allyship tip of being able to think about where you want to intervene. You can do both. We also have limited capacity because we're human and because time is finite. So if you want to do more pulling people out of the river and that is where you want to spend your time, cool, do it. If you want to figure out why and then also address how people got in the river and you want to do that, cool. If you want to do both, doing anything to be an ally is amazing and has served me more arguably than I've served people. And my allyship tip is,
Well, let me ask you.
okay, sorry.
Don't ruin my format.
Stop there, Trish. Got it.
What's one allyship tip you'd like everyone listening to consider?
Think globally and act locally. Nothing in your immediate environment is too small for you to address. City council is not too small. It doesn't have to be grand. Even your next door neighbor or something on your street still matters. So acting locally and doing something right in your community does have ripple effects and it does impact the world. While also thinking about global issues is really important, and knowing that you can do both. You can do something for both. And watching the impact that you get to make in your own sphere, your own local area is wonderful. So that's my allyship tip.
Well, Trisha, We did it. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I appreciate everything you shared, and it was fun going down some of those rabbit holes, even though both of us were like, oh my gosh, which train should we take? And thank you for sharing so much joy and laughter with me. It's such a unique treat to be able to poke fun at ourselves from time to time. So I'm glad that we were able to do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, it's time for the final 3 self reflection questions. Number 4. If I'm part of the LGBTQ plus community, what's a stereotype I don't fit? What's one I do? If I'm not part of this community, what's another community I'm a part of that these would apply? Number 5. Who is someone I know doing incredible work in my community who doesn't get recognized? How can I recognize them in a way that would feel good to them? Number 6. What kind of leader am I? All right, folks, before you go, this is your friendly reminder. Pride Month is coming up. Book your people. Book your people. Listen, there are a lot of speakers, especially those that are highly sought after, that are probably already booked out entirely. Like, you won't even have a chance. Maybe if there's a cancellation, and even then. So now, you get that fire under your ass going, and go and find your speaker, your trainer, whatever the situation is, your moderator for your event. Get them now, because you want to get the people that are at the top of your list. And I say this with all of the love. So, like, for example, I still have spots open right now, so feel free to reach out to me if you want to have a conversation about that and what we could do together. But every year, I'll get people that contact me at the end of May, mid-June, trying to get an event for the end of June. Y'all, Pride Month is the same month every year. And depending on your role within the company, especially because there's been so many budget cuts, including closures of DEI programs, budget cuts for ERGs, I have some solutions that may be more accessible to you. And I plan on expanding on what that looks like. Not only do I have an offering that is now $500 a session, with some extra details in there that I'll be sure to include in the show notes, but also I'm planning on releasing a bunch of do-it-yourself stuff, so that if you wanted to host some sort of screening and needed inspiration for discussion questions and things like that, that you'll have more opportunities available to you if you need to do things in-house. So reach out, let me help you, and let's see how creative we can get together to do something cool. Visit allyship.com for any resources and a full transcript of the episode. And remember, sometimes allyship means to think globally and act locally.